Okay, so in part four, what you're going to notice as we go through this, you can be solving rational equations. Um, you're going to have to factor the denominators, and then you're going to end up with a quadratic equation. So there are going to be some problems here where you will end up with a quadratic equation. So let's look at this example. So let's first want to solve this equation. We have um, 4 we have 2x divided by x plus 2 minus 2 equal x minus 8 divided by x minus 2. All right, now your denominators, x plus 2, this is, remember, negative 2 over 1, so that's a 1, and then it's x minus 2. So you can't factor the denominator, so you can go directly to finding the LCD. So the LCD is x plus 2 times x minus 2. All right, now you want to find the restriction. You want to find your restrictions. That could be 1, that could be 2. Um, there could be quite a few, or there could be none. But you're going to have, at least, you're going to have 2 of them here. So if you look at your denominator, what makes this denominator 0? Well, x plus 2 is equal to 0 when x equal negative 2. So subtract 2 from both sides and you get x equals negative 2. So your restriction is the first one, that x cannot equal negative 2. Over here, when is x minus 2 equal to 0? Well, x minus 2 is equal to 0 when x equal 2. So there's your other restriction. So my restrictions are negative 2 and 2. Alright, so once you find your LCD, then you're going to multiply both sides by the LCD. So remember though, you have 2 fractions here. So I'm going to put that in parentheses. So I'm going to get, let me go ahead and do that here. So you're going to get x plus 2 times x minus 2, that's your LCD, times these 2 fractions, 2x divided by x plus 2 minus 2. And again, on the other side, you have x minus 8 divided by x minus 2, but that also has to be multiplied by the LCD. Okay? Alright, now remember that's your LCD right here. So distributing, I get x plus 2 times x minus 2 times that first denominator, that first fraction, and then minus, and then this times this. So this times 2 minus 2 times x plus 2 times x minus 2 equal, and over here, see these x minus 2's divide out? X minus 2 divide out, but you have an x minus 8. Put that in parentheses. You have an x minus 8 times an x plus 2. Okay? And over here, these x plus 2's divide out. Now be careful, this is a 2x, but the monomial first. That's a 2x times x minus 2. So 2x times x minus 2 times 1 is 2x times x minus 2. Divided by 1 is still this right here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite everything else over. Okay, so here's the situation. It's quite a bit of work you're going to have to do. Alright, so we got to get rid of these parentheses. This one's easy because I could distribute the 2x through here. So 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times a negative 2 is a negative 4x. So that's what I get here. So this right here is this. Now, let's look at this one. Here you have 3 factors. You have 3 factors being multiplied together. Let's go ahead and multiply these 2 binomials. So I'm going to kind of cover that 2 up for right now. And just think about this right here. So I'm going to go off and kind of do that here. Let me just do it on this page. So if I look at this, so I have x plus 2 times x minus 2. If I FOIL it, x times x is x squared. The outer is a negative 2x. The inner is a positive 2x. And the last is a negative 4. Positive 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. Combining like terms, these cancel out, you get 0. So you get x squared minus 4. So that's what this is. But remember, that is being multiplied by negative 2. So I get minus 2 times x squared minus 4. Okay? So you got to be careful. You could easily have made a mistake here. Okay, over here, you have x minus 8 times x plus 2. So again, using the FOIL method, x times x is x squared. First times first. The outer, you get positive 2x. The inner, you get negative 8x. And the last, a negative 8 times a positive 2 is a negative 16. Combine like terms, I get x squared minus 6x minus 16. So that trinomial goes here. X squared minus 6x minus 16. Okay, so that's where we're at. Okay, and over here, distributing the negative 2, so I get 2x squared minus 4x minus 2x squared, and then a negative 2 times a negative 4 is a positive 8. And so that's equal to, I can't combine any like terms over here. There are no like terms. I'm just rewrite it. So x squared minus 6x minus 16. Combining like terms, these two x squareds cancel out. They're opposites, so when you add them up, you get 0. And I get a negative 4x plus 8. So negative 4x, oops, that's an x, plus 8 is going to equal x squared minus 6x minus 16. Okay, so that's where I'm at. So quite a bit of work here. But notice I went from a rational equation to a quadratic. Remember, this is not linear because of that x squared. Look at that x squared. So this is quadratic. That's a quadratic equation. And remember, to solve a quadratic equation, you put it in standard form. So meaning that you had to have 0 on the other side. And once you had 0 on the other side and you factor, you can use a 0 factor property. Remember all that? Okay, so since x squared is positive on the right side, let's leave it on the right side. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. I'm going to line my like terms, put the like terms on each other, combine them. A negative 4x plus 4x is 0. 0 plus 8 is 8, equal x squared. A negative 6x and a positive 4x is a negative 2x, and then minus 16. Now subtracting 8, put your like terms onto each other. 8 minus 8 is 0, equal, got to have a 0 here, x squared minus 2x, a negative 16, and a negative 8 is a negative 24. All right, so that's where I'm at. Now let's go to, I'm going to go, notice that this part took quite a bit of this page. So now I'm going to rewrite this. We're not done with this problem. You got to solve for x. Okay, so I have x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0. Okay, so I got to solve this quadratic equation. So I can factor. Make sure you say equals 0. So I get xx. I think what's going to work would be 6 and 4. So 6 and 4. And then the 6 would have to be negative and the 4 would have to be positive. All right, you can always check yourself. X times x is x squared. A negative 6 times a positive 4 is a negative 24. The outer is 4x. The inner is a negative 6x. When you add them up, you do get negative 2x. And remember, the 0 factor property says this. If you have two or more factors whose product is 0, then one of them has to be 0. So either x minus 6 equals 0 or x plus 4 is equals 0. So notice I went from this quadratic to linear. So I get x to be 6 and I get x to be negative 4. Okay? Now, notice that neither one of these is your restriction. Remember, your restriction was negative 2 and 2. So neither one of those are restrictions. So assuming I did all this work correct, your solution would be x equals 6, comma, x equal negative 4. Okay? All right, so quite a bit of work you had to do here. You could have messed up anywhere along the process. You have to be careful. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at this one. All right, number 2. Let's suppose we had x plus 1 divided by x plus 3 equal x squared minus 11x divided by x squared plus x minus 6 minus, in parentheses, minus x minus 3 is the numerator, and the denominator is x minus 2. Alright, so that's what we have. Okay, so first thing you have to do is factor the denominators. So over here, I can't do anything much with this, and the same thing here. I can't do anything with x minus 2. But let's see if we can factor this trinomial. So when I factor this, that's going to be x plus 3, x minus 2. So that's how you factor this trinomial. And notice the factors are here. Those are the same factors. Alright, so the LCD is going to be x plus 3 times x minus 2. So remember, your LCD must contain every factor you see. So I have an x plus 3 here. There's only one. There's only one here. There's none here. So I must use 1. The next factor I see is x minus 2. None, 1, 1. So I must use 1. Now your restrictions, you can just look at x plus 3. What makes x plus 3 0? The answer is negative 3. So x cannot equal negative 3. We've already taken care of x plus 3. Now let's get x minus 2. When is x minus 2 equals 0? Well, x minus 2 is equals 0 when x equals 2. So those are your two restrictions. So x cannot equal negative 3, and x cannot equal 2. Alright, so let's go ahead and rewrite this. I'm going to go ahead and put that here. So I'm going to rewrite this. It'll be x plus 1 divided by x plus 3 equal x squared minus 11x. Now again, leave this alone. Don't factor this. You only want to factor the denominators. Divided by x plus 3, x minus 2, minus, and then x minus 3, over x minus 2. Now I'm going to put this right side in parentheses because that's the two fractions, and multiplied by the LCD, which is x plus 3, x minus 2. And again, what I do to one side, you got to multiply both sides by the LCD. So what you do to one side, you have to do the other. Okay, that's where I'm at. Alright, and then the next step here, the left side is going to be easy. You're just going to you're going to reduce the x plus 3's like this. And I end up with x minus 2 times x plus 1. So that's what this is. 1 times x minus 2 times x plus 1 is x minus 2 times x plus 1 in parentheses. Remember, all that's being divided by 1, so the numerator will stay the same. Okay, over here, I'm going to distribute the LCD. So I get x squared minus 11x divided by x plus 3, x minus 2 times the LCD, x plus 3 times x minus 2, minus x minus 3 divided by x minus 2 times the LCD. Okay, so that's where I'm at. Alright, over here, these two factors reduce with these two factors, and you end up with a 1 here. That's a 1. Oops. Let me make sure. Oops. Okay, I'm so sorry. That was an equal sign. I didn't even see it. Excuse me. So that's going to stay. You got to be careful. See, you got to be careful. Just like what I did here, I kind of messed up. I thought that was a multiplication. So this is this. So basically, for this part, you have to FOIL this out. All right. So let's go off to the side and figure out what that is. So it's quite a bit of work you're gonna have to do. So you got to be careful. All right. So let's see what we're doing. All right, over here, that's x minus 2 times x plus 1. Okay, foiling it. First times first, so x times x, x squared. The outer is a positive x. X times 1 is positive x. Minus 2x. And then negative 2 times a positive 1 is a negative 2. Combining my terms, you get x squared minus x minus 2. So that's this. So this part here is going to be x squared minus x minus 2 equal. Now over here, this is where those divide out. So this is in the denominator, this is in the numerator, so I can reduce. And you're only left with, though, x squared minus 11x. So x squared minus 11x times 1 is x squared minus 11x. Minus, all right, over here, the x minus 2's divide out, and you're left with, this right here, you're left with x minus 3 times x plus 3. That's what you're left with. Okay, this times this. So let's go off to the side and figure out what that is using FOIL. So I have x minus 3 times x plus 3. So x times x is x squared. The outer is positive 3x. The inner is a negative 3x. And the last is a negative 9. Combining like terms, this becomes 0 right here. 3x and a negative 3x is 0. So I got x squared minus 9. All right, so that's what this is. So that goes here. Now be careful, you're subtracting. So you can easily mess up. You're going to say x squared minus 9 like this, and that's not true. You're not subtracting x squared. You're subtracting x squared minus 9. So you got to put that in parentheses. You have to be careful. And now distributing this, I get x squared minus x minus 2 equal x squared minus 11x. Now when I distribute the negative 3 here, that becomes minus x squared and then plus 9. That's what you end up with. Alright, combining like terms in each side. This left-hand side has no like terms, so we'll just rewrite it. On the right side, the x squareds add up to be 0, and you're left with negative x plus 9. Negative 11x plus 9. So that's what you end up with. Alright, now notice I went from a quadratic equation to, a rational equation to a quadratic equation. Remember the x squared, so that's quadratic. So I got to put this in standard form. Remember, you got to put it in standard form. If you're going to factor using the zero factor property, or if you're going to solve the equation using the zero factor property. So adding 11x to both sides, I'm going to line them in like terms. I get x squared, a negative 1x, and a positive 11x is a positive 10x minus 2 equal. These add up to be 0, and you're left with 9. Okay. So the next step, notice how many steps this thing involves. So it's quite involving. X squared plus 10x minus 2 equal 9. All right, subtracting 9 from both sides, aligning in like terms, I get x squared plus 10x. A negative 2 and a negative 9 is a negative 11 equal, and then 9 minus 9 is 0. So now it's in standard form. So this is in standard form. So here we have to put in standard form. And so this is standard form. All right, once it's in standard form, you're going to factor, which you say equals 0. So now you're going to, at some point, you're going to use a zero factor property. So that's what you're going to use at some point. All right, xx, this will be 11, this will be 1. 11 will be positive, and 1 will be negative. All right, you can always check yourself. You'll notice that this will work. And now using the zero factor property, set each factor equal to 0. So I get x to be, well, x plus 11 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. So x equal negative 11, and x equal 1. All right, so those are none of your restrictions. Remember, your restrictions were negative 3 and 2. You didn't have any here. So those are your solutions. So solutions are x equal negative 11 and x equal 1. Okay? All right, now in the next part, first of all, in this part, notice that let's see if I can find it. So notice that when we solve this first equation right here, this first rational equation, I went from rational equation to a quadratic, right here, to a quadratic. And when I solved this quadratic equation, I ended up with two solutions, because none of those solutions right here, none of those solutions were extraneous. Remember, none of those solutions were false. None of them were extraneous. And then in the second one also, in the second equation, I went from a rational equation to a quadratic equation, and when I factor, I end up with two solutions, and none are extraneous solutions, meaning none are false solutions. Okay? The next part, we're going to end up with a quadratic, but we're going to do a few problems where one of those does not work. One of those is a restriction. Okay?